Welcome to a special episode of the Iowa Girls Wrestling Podcast. Today I brought together some coaches that I really respect. And if I were going to call, if I had any questions, these are probably the people I would call. Today I got Jeff Jager, Central Line, George Little Rock. He's the Northwest Iowa rep for the IWCOA. He's been at the last couple of Iowa Girls advisory meetings as the representative of the IWCOA. And just an all around great guy, small school 1A. We have Adam Hale from Pella. He's been on the podcast before. He goes with us on AAU trips, so he's an AAU national team coach, and he's been involved in starting a couple of girls teams. So, has some real good experience there. Matt Daniels. Matt Daniels has been at Council Bluffs AL. I don't know how many years, but he's definitely a veteran of wrestling in the state of Iowa. A lot of very great knowledge. Really good guy. Helps coach every year at AAU. Works really well with all the girls and stuff. Somebody I really respect. Um, Joining us maybe a little bit later on. I got maybe Allie Jabrock from Cedar Falls. She's actually working right now, but she might hop on. And if she does, she's does everything for the girls. She's on the girls advisory board for the IW or Girls Union, IWCOA officer, AAU board. She coaches both USA and AAU national teams, and now she's become a photographer for IA Sports. So, gentlemen, how are you doing tonight?
Yeah, very good.
Good.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so I thought maybe we'd start with each one of you real quick. Maybe talk a little bit about your area and maybe some challenges and some good things about we'll start with you, Jeff Jagger, Northwest Iowa, 1A school. Why don't you talk about a little bit about challenges and some good things about what's going on in Northwest Iowa?
Yeah, absolutely. So Central Line George Larac, we're a 1A school. We're consolidated, and consolidated Central Line and George Larac are consolidated in quite a few sports. So we're not just consolidated for girls wrestling. We're boys wrestling, football, cross country, and stuff. Been since I think 1991 is when they started sharing stuff. You know, the I'll start off with the good stuff that's happening here. I feel like Northwest Iowa girls wrestling is growing like crazy. Our district last year, I think, had the second most wrestlers in Class 1A at a district. So that was really cool to see. We got a lot of good coaches around here. You can see that continuing to grow. A lot of camps, a lot of different things like that. So I can really tell that it's growing. It's really cool to see. Sioux Lane Conference itself. I think all our schools have it, maybe except one school have started having wrestling now, and stuff. So yeah, it's been really cool. Some of the challenges, I don't know. I mean, I don't really know what our challenges would be at this point. I think any challenge that we have, we just kind of work through it and try to make it the best experience for the girls. So off the top of my head, I can't really think of much of a challenge yet. We're still just growing and learning. You can tell that, but now we're getting to the point where we're settled in. This is a real sport. It's serious. The girls love it. The coaches love it. The fans love it. So that's what I like the most. It's competitive. It's good, but it's also just what it's done for the girls in this area. Especially, I'll just talk my girls has really been special. So yeah, it's really been cool these first 3 years.
Very good. We'll stay on the western side of the state and we'll talk to Matt Daniels. How's everything down in Council Bluffs?
Good, good. Getting a lot of rain. I like it.
What do you think some
We
of
are.
the good things going on down in at AL? Even you can speak to TJ and to but go ahead.
Yeah, I'd say the good part and the challenging part is the amount of growth we have right here in the city. I mean, I have 50 junior high girls, which is exciting, but it presents its own challenges, having that many girls in a room. We do 7-12 here. So, during the season, we have some times where, we've got 70 girls in the room, which is a good problem to have.
Yeah.
Some of
Wow.
the challenges are, even though there's so many schools for us to wrestle, some of the challenges are getting, schools that are in our class, the bigger class, or not having to wrestle the Lewis Centrals and those guys every single weekend. So that's kind of been one of our challenges that we're working on, is hitting up different parts of the state, trying to get up your way. Last year we went out to Nevada, so I would say that's some of the new things that we're trying to do to overcome. But as far as, challenges, I think the good and the bad thing is the amount of growth. I mean, it is exponentially growing here in town.
Man, that's incredible. She can have up to 70 girls in the wrestling room. I know when you and I first were coaching some girls, there's maybe 25, 30 girls in the state that wrestled. So to have that many, 3 times that amount in your room, it's amazing. Adam Hale out in Pella, Central Iowa. How's everything going in Central Iowa?
I think it's going well here. I think problems are probably the same as they are everywhere. Like Matt said, growth creates space issues, but those are good problems to have and good problems to troubleshoot. So I think at least here in Pella, we're seeing the program grow at all levels on the boys and the girls side. We're at record numbers everywhere, middle school, high school on both sides of that, youth on both sides of that. So that's been really good. I think a cool thing in our area has just been seeing how some of the programs come together and work in the off season and even during the season to try to build and kind of encourage and support each other. Just like you're saying, you would call some of us. There are a lot of coaches in the area that I am just a text or a phone call away if I have a question, or if we end up losing the date because of weather, we can throw something together to make up that weigh-in date. And it's just everybody supporting everybody's girls and the growth of the sport all together. So that's been really cool to see. It's also nice down here in Pella. We're not too far from all sorts of tough schools that we get to see. We've got Eddyville and Raccoon River, and we're not more than an hour from just about anybody that we want to see. Colfax, that has such a strong tradition, and they're all just local, so we can find good wrestling partners like over winter break and off season. It's been good.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's one thing I've really enjoyed about girls wrestling is that, and maybe I wasn't in the right area or something for the boys, but it doesn't seem like the boys coaches reach out and work with each other quite as well as the girls coaches. And that may be just my experience, but something I've always enjoyed about it. I thought we get started talking a little bit about last year's regionals and maybe where we're going this year, from the meetings that have happened with the girls union and stuff. So, again, I'll start this time with Jeff because I know that he was at the largest regional, and then Matt and I were at the same regional, so we can discuss that a little bit. And then, Adam, you were somewhere in Central Iowa, I'm sure. But Jeff, you said you had the largest regional. Discrepancy between 1A and 2A as far as number of teams that were at each regional. I guess why don't you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, man, I wish I said before the podcast I had a bunch of stuff written down, then I forgot all my stuff in my office. I think, yeah, was there 19 teams, I think, at ours, something like that. Now, a lot of those teams didn't have many, and we had a full lineup. I think Boynark Valley had a full lineup. There was a few of them that had, but not very many of them have them. So they do that. I don't know if we were the biggest or maybe the second biggest in 1A, but yeah, I mean, you started tournament at, what did we start at? Was it 4 o'clock? I think
Yeah, I think 4.
we're at 2, and we started at 4 o'clock. I'll do my 100-pounder for an example here, which was one of the coolest thing I've ever seen. I've been wrestling since I was 5, 6 years old, and I'm 47, so 40 years of my life, whatever. But as coaching, she lost first round, which was actually quarterfinal round, because she had to buy first round, and then she won 5 matches on the backside. So from 4 o'clock, we'll say her first match was probably 4:30, maybe after that first round, to, I don't know, 9:30. In the span of 5 hours, she wrestled 6 matches. That's a lot. It was awesome. It was unbelievable. She made it through state and ended up placing, loses first round and then come back. But that was pretty tough. You wrestling late at night or whatever. So it actually ended up being a really cool thing than something than a negative thing. But yeah, it was a tough tournament. There's a lot of girls there and stuff like that. So, we talked about maybe expanding the top three at each region to make it to state, go to 24-person brackets. That didn't end up working out for this year. Maybe in the future, that's something that the state will do. But yeah, I would say that was a little bit of a challenge. 19 teams, and no bracket had 19 girls in it. But it was it was a tough day though.
Yeah, if I remember right, the average bracket size for 1A was 9 point something, and average bracket size for 2A was 6 point something. So
Yeah.
that
Then you get a couple that would have 13, 14, something like that, which was awesome. It's good to see and stuff, and then there'd be some that would have probably 4 or 5. right?
Yeah.
So trying to balance that out, you get those middle weights, there's a ton, usually around from 115 to 145, 155, and you get some of the upper weights, not quite as many and stuff. But yeah, I would say, it was good. I mean, it was funny. You still have to place top two. So whether there's, whatever it is, you're still, everybody's got that opportunity to make it to state, but at the same time, creating more opportunities. And that's kind of what we talked about is at the union was, or at the advisory meeting, is just giving another, more girls opportunities to get down to that state tournament, because you guys know how awesome and how special that place is, and the girls union do an amazing job with our state tournament. Just the atmosphere, the environment, the arena. I know it's a small arena. You hear some people talk about that too. I kind of like that, but we just want more and more people to get those opportunities, and it's coming. I think in some way, shape, or form, it's coming.
Yeah. So Matt, we were at Lewis Central together. I felt like we maybe some of the brackets were kind of small, but I felt like it was a pretty tough two-way regional. With Lewis Central there, Hinton had kind of came out of nowhere this year and really had a solid team. I think I ended up placing third with pretty close to a full team and stuff. So, I think it was a pretty tough regional. What do you think about regionals this year? And maybe even, some of the other regionals, if you have anything to add.
I thought our regional was pretty. I thought it was pretty tough. I mean, top to bottom. The girls that were there. I mean, speaking to the point of numbers, and we were the benefactor of heavyweight of only having 2 girls. So we kind of got a free state qualifier on that, which again is great for me. But I'd really rather see a full bracket. When we add teams to that. I think, if we add teams to those regionals, again, it's never going to guarantee filling up the brackets because each team is going to be different. When you start adding those regional teams, then like you said, small schools, I'm one of the biggest schools in the state. And if we add however many more teams, well, the biggest teams in the smaller class are really going to take a hit because, they're going to be super small compared to, what some of us are putting out on the map. But as far as the regional goes, I would love to see 3 girls go, as opposed to, and I don't know if we're getting into this, but as opposed to 3 classes right now. I know when you and I started, there's 90 some girls at the IWCOA state tournament, and then, when our girls wrestled, Hannah, I think she was 7-1, and got beat by Molly in the finals with 54 girls in the bracket, so, and I know we're not ready to go there, but I think 24, if we're going to expand, would be a good idea. I like the idea of adding more teams to the regionals, if it makes sense. I mean, if it doesn't make sense, then, leave it the way it is and maybe look at numbers for another season.
Yeah. How was your regional, Adam?
It was good. We're 2A. We were up at South Tama, so we did have to tolerate Danny Ellsbury while we were there. But once we got past that,
tough way tough thing. You probably got an award for that.
We did, yeah. It was real nice. Yeah, coach's room was good too, so that's a nice bonus. Always good there. They had some homemade soup and stuff. But wrestling-wise, it was good. We ended up with 8-person brackets in terms of formatting. I was just going back and looking through. I think we had a couple that had 6 is all. And then once we got into some of the upper weights, we had some smaller brackets. Looks like 190 had 5 and heavyweight had 4, but everybody else was 6 or more in that. And those ones that had 6 had at least 3 or 4 ranked girls in the bracket. So there's still kind of tough roads to make there. But I'd say just from the wrestling standpoint, it was nice having those brackets and just watching the quality of the matches. It started we're really getting to the point where it's feeling like when I coached on the boys side and you get into some of those true third matches and they're just gritty, grinded out and everything. Our technique level across the state, I think, is increasing leaps and bounds too. So it's just really fun to get to see that setting and get that feel. And I liked having it in a school gym. I don't know. I think in the school gym, that setting, maybe it's just the nostalgia, but it just feels like wrestling a little bit more, I think, compared to some of the big arenas that we were in before. The big arenas were fun for the regionals, but I like the school setting. That was a cool thing for us too. But yeah, our tournament was run well. Brackets, we're set up pretty good. Track makes it all slick to seat everything. Very little arguments on that stuff. But yeah, just love the quality of wrestling.
Yeah. Why don't we talk about, so I know that, so at the advisory meeting, a lot of push for getting 3 qualifiers. I don't believe that's happening this year. Uh, Jeff was there also. We discussed it. Kind of seemed like they were leaning to 3 classes, maybe even before the 24 qualifiers. Why don't we talk about that? If we would expand down to 80 or 80 plus teams in 2A, adding another 12, what would 64 to 80, that's 16 more teams, going down. Are we taking away from the strength of 1A? Some of the bigger co-ops, are they going to need to break up in order to make that 80 a fair 80? You know what I mean? When we have, I'm going to say Council Bluffs and Sioux City did not consolidate, but Des Moines, Davenport, 2 of the larger ones. You got Ankeny, Centennial, Waukee, Northwest. Some of the biggest schools in the state are combined, taking up some spots of, like last year. I know some of the people on the edge, like an Okoboji's right on the edge, and they're all by themselves, and they're kind of a smaller school. Is that fair for them? I guess let's talk about, is that fair to have these larger co-ops, and then having to bump a smaller school into that 2A bracket? And I don't care who starts. Who wants to start on that one? Go ahead, Adam.
It's just hard for me to fault anybody for wanting to win, and I think that the co-op is great in multiple ways because it helps those programs do really well. It helps give girls within that room great competition, and great partners. But then you do have to look at there is the argument to be made about, are you taking away opportunities from those girls too? Would they be varsity elsewhere? Would those girls be making state in different lineups? And I've heard too that if some of those co-ops would split, they'd struggle to fill lineups on their own, with this school or that school. And I hear that too, because it's not fun wrestling a duel when you don't have a full lineup. But it's also, I mean, that's probably the majority of the schools in the state are in that boat where they don't have a full lineup. Even with the co-op that we have, we fill 12 of 14 weights, 11 of 14 weights, sometimes only 10 of 14 weights, depending on the night. But so even with the co-op, we struggle with that. But I think that's kind of part of the growing pains of it. But continuing to look for ways just to give girls opportunities is what I think needs to win out on that.
Yeah, I'll just throw my 2 cents. And since I am a co-op in Northwest Iowa, I'm a larger co-op, right? I mean, I have 4 schools. Well, there was a 5th one that kind of threw in this year just because they had no place to send a girl. But I already see when do co-ops break up? It's when parents get mad that their child isn't getting the opportunity. And I'm seeing that. And I'm actually in the 7th grade class, like you were saying, Matt, you have 50 girls in the middle school. If I took all of our co-op, and that's who they ended up wrestling, because we were a second season wrestling team, one of the only areas that still have that second season. All my girls that are going to wrestle together on a team wrestled each other for middle school. Well, between the 4 schools, and if I add the 5th that I don't think we'll have anymore, there was about 30 girls in the 7th grade, and I couldn't imagine our little room adding a class of 30 girls, and then definitely will be taking away opportunities for other girls to be on a team. And I think that's when we see co-ops break up, is when opportunities aren't given, and it's probably parents. Administrators are happy to keep co-ops because it's easy for them, right? But when it gets hard for coaches and it gets hard for parents, that's when we'll see that break up. Anybody got anything else on co-op and regionals and anything like that?
My fear's always been, teams that decide that they want to stay in a class. I mean, I can use some of the school. I have a school here in town that, keeps their enrollment at a specific level so they don't have to go anywhere. We'll leave it at that. So that's one thing. But as a traditionalist, I want the best team out there. and girls that want to compete, they're going to stay on those teams, and parents have to support that. If you want to win a state championship, or if you want your daughter to be a state champion, you can't go, oh, hey, I want to go over here so I can qualify for state because I can't do it here. Like I said, I'll go back to the original state tournaments and 50 girl brackets where every girl got to go. You found out who the true state champion was.
For sure.
Every girl qualified that we wanted to send, so you found out right away who the best 8 girls were in the state of Iowa, but like I said, my biggest fear is that we get to a point where schools do want to drop off so that they stay in a certain class. I don't think there'd be that many, like you said, because schools are supporting it, but I do feel there'd be some communities that would really look hard at that so that they could get more girls maybe to the state tournament.
Yeah, I can see that. Got anything to add, Jeff?
Yeah, we don't really deal too much with consolidations up here. Not like the consolidations just for girls wrestling. There's a lot of consolidations up here in Northwest Iowa, a lot of small schools where, again, like I said, we're consolidated with lots of different sports with George Little Rock Valley Boynton Hall's consolidated together with multiple sports, different things like that. So I don't know. I don't want to be greedy, but it doesn't really affect me. So I haven't really thought about it a whole lot. When we go to those advisory meetings, though, I there's been concerns of some coaches in Northwest Iowa, and we bring that to the advisory committee because their input, how they feel, does matter. I just got the feeling, I don't know if the state's not going to do nothing about it. They can't do nothing about it. It doesn't have nothing to do, right? It's kind of what Aaron said, that it's up to each school district. We can't do that. As it continues to grow, I think what we all said, though, the problem probably will kind of take care of itself a little bit. And I think some of these schools will start to go on their own and stuff too. So I do think it's something that will take care of itself.
Now, something else that always comes up when we start talking about state, and there's a lot of varied opinions on this. Coralville, is that the right spot? Where else do you go? A lot of people is it still called Wells, or is it the Casey Center? I'm not even sure what it's called anymore, but we'll refer to it since we're all old Wells Fargo. I hear a lot of that. We need to be out of Coralville. What do you guys think about that? Let's start with Adam. Go ahead. Go ahead, Jeff.
Go ahead.
Well, you're fine.
I was just going to say, I kind of like it there. As a coach, I love the warm-up area, and we don't have to, we're just with the wrestlers. We got the tunnel to walk to the mats. There's plenty of mat room to warm up in. If you want to get away, you can get down there. I like the full environment. It's loud in there. It's pretty rocking. The Friday night atmosphere is pretty cool. One thing I'd change about that, I think finals should be just the finals. You got fifth and seventh going, or I'm sorry, third and fifth going at the same time. But right now it is what it is. It's a 2-day tournament. There's no other way to do it. But I like the smaller arena for right now. If we outgrow that, maybe. But a full small arena is way better than a bigger arena. Might even have more people there, but it's going to seem a lot less. That's my 2 cents. And I love the Coralville area. It's hotel right there. We walk to weigh-ins. We don't have to deal with a lot of stuff. So personally, I like it there.
Yeah. Who's next? Adam?
Sure. Yeah. I'm with Jeff on that. I love Coralville. I think having coached at Wells and at Extreme, I think the coach and athlete experience at Coralville is just way superior. Like Jeff said, with the warm-up area, having it just right there connected is really, really nice. I think once you're out on the floor, it feels closer to vets than it does, like just with how close the crowd is able to get to you. I mean, they're right up on that hockey glass, right up on that wall. They're 10 feet away from the edge of the mat and just screaming and hollering. And I don't know about anybody else's, but my girls all try to circle and get down mat side, try to steal those front row seats till they get kicked out and be right on top of the action. And that's fun. And just, it kind of takes me back to how it used to be when I was first in high school there, and you get that more intimate feel. And I think, again, kind of like Jeff is getting at there, I think there's ways that we can modify the tournament a little bit to keep us there longer, that I think has a lot of benefit just with how great that arena is. If we expand to 3 days and again, even if you go first and third on that Friday night session or that whatever that session is, whatever night that ends up falling, and expand things out that way, I think we try to stretch it out as much as we can to stay in that venue.
Gotcha. What do you think, Matt?
Absolutely love the venue. Again, having coached in both, I think, you'd be looking at that boys morning session, just people watching the kids getting the medals, if you figured it out differently. But, the cool thing is having had a finalist, they knew ahead of time. So they got right down, and to have kids' parents be able to get right down to the mat side, and the kids get to connect with that, and your fans, doing that kind of thing. I think the only reason we would have to move is if we went to 3 classes, because unless you went, I don't know, several days. But the venue's great. Like you said, I'll ditto everything they said. The warm-up area is great. It's great getting there the night before, having plenty of warm-up space. People are very open to, if you need an extra partner or whatever else working in, you got plenty of room for the coaches to watch the wrestling, plenty of places, for everybody to be there. I totally think a bigger arena is going to take away from the experience, because you're not going to get somewhere, and I'll ditto the vets piece. The people are right down on top,
Yep.
And it makes it even more exciting. My girls, when they first got there for the first time, looked up and, wow, look at this, and which is a cool thing as well. But I think Coralville is a place we should try to zero in on and stay at.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with all you. I was hoping there'd be somebody who was. Every time I go somewhere, it seems like somebody wants to get out of Coralville. But I love Coralville. As far as, I'm an old vets guy. I loved vets. I thought it was so much fun. I think it's a similar environment. I think a little bit with seating, and maybe that's solved by selling seated tickets instead of just wherever you want. Then people aren't saving rows of seats and things like that. But going another day, that sometimes I wonder if that's the reason we didn't go to 24, is they don't really want to go out in front of that, because then we're missing more school, and girls wrestling misses a lot of school because a lot of our meets are on Mondays and Fridays because of referee shortages and different things like that. So coming up, not next year, but the year after, dual state tournament. That's something I'm super excited about. Don't know if my team will ever qualify for it, but I'm excited for it, because I think duals are really something that can not save our sport. I think our sport's doing pretty well right now. I think we're in a really good spot, but I think it's a good way to have the casual fan really enjoy it, get more kids involved. I think duals are great. What about dual state tournament, and what do you think about duals, Matt?
Duels for us, we're the same boat. We're between 10 and 12 girls, put on the mat at a time. But, we sat around and watched the Raccoon River Cedar Falls duel, and the girls were excited, and that was an exciting match. And just to show the girls what that looks like for full teams and, nationally ranked teams and stuff like that. I'm all for it. Again, my same fear is, are you going to have enough teams? And I don't know how many teams they'll do, if they'll just do a quick 8 team, and go that route, and will everybody have enough, to have full teams so it is exciting for people? I think that'll be another push that we talked about. One of the pieces is making sure that you get enough girls to fill that lineup. So I'm all for it. I take that extra day and watch that all day long.
Yeah, no, I really enjoy duels. I think one of the things that I've heard, even talking to some coach like Osage coaches and talked to Phillips in Mason City, they were kind of worried that once you get past the first probably 5 or 6, 10 teams in 1A, there aren't full teams. So is it going to be kind of for 1A, are the duels going to be a little bit lopsided for a while until we build? What do you think, Jeff? You're a 1A guy. How long is it going to take us to build 1A up to have good dual state tournament?
I think it's on the coaches, right?
Yep.
That's part of our job. I love duels. That's my favorite part about coaching. Tournaments. You want to win tournaments, right? But tournaments are very individual. I tell the girls, tournaments are yours. Duels are us coaches, and we're going to move you guys, and it's exciting. It's fun to be able to do that stuff. I wish state duels were starting this year. I'm I I just love the atmosphere. We're very, very blessed at Central Line George Lorette to have the crowds that we have. We always have tons of people at duels. Our home duels, our home site is packed. We got a mezzanine that's full. They travel. So our atmospheres are really, really cool. And the girls feel it. There's nerves, there's stuff, like you can always feel our first goal is always to win the conference duel title. So yeah, I'm all about it. I think that will be huge for our sport. I think it'll be huge for people to see that stuff and just how cool of a thing that it will be. I'm very, very excited for it. I think I don't think we need to worry too much. I mean, the lineups will fill up. I really think so. Small schools is going to come and go. I've been really blessed. I've had full lineup for a couple of years. A couple of years I might not. My numbers might be down a little bit depending on our class sizes. Some of our class sizes are pretty small and stuff, but then that's on me to go out there and get some more girls interested in it and get them in the program, get them in the room, and get them buying in. So, that's I don't know. I take that as that's on me to get out there and get as many as I can. I guess doesn't always work, obviously, but yeah, that's yeah. I guess my 2 cents. I'm excited for it. I can't wait. I'm interested to see where it's going to be at too.
Yeah.
Just between us, Troy, we're Western siders. Maybe we can have state duels on the Western side of the state, since we go to the East side for everything else.
Someone was telling me, did Sioux City get baseball this year or for a year or two? Something am I right?
Yeah, doesn't
on that?
I think you might be right.
Yep, Sioux City's got it for the next 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, Council
so-
Bluffs got a nice arena there for
Yeah, they
for
do.
Girl State. Sioux City's got a good arena. I'm sure. I mean, I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. And again, I don't know if my team would ever make it, but bring a little bit over to the east or to the west side of the state. Maybe that helps grow a little bit. Get some, elementary girls or some junior high teams bring their teams to come watch some of that stuff. I think it'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think either Council Bluffs, the MAC, that's a nice. They already host a lot of wrestling events there. That'd be
absolutely.
a great facility.
Right
Sioux City is a
interstate.
fantastic facility too. I mean, they both
It is. It is.
really, really nice facilities. So, and maybe they'll bid. I know the bidding's coming open for that, so hopefully they bid those. That'd be a great see on this side of the state. Get them Pella people to bring us some Dutch letters over this way.
Yeah, we can deliver. That's for sure.
You can deliver. So I've only been to Pella the one time for a clinic there, but if you guys, I don't know if you've ever been to Pella or not, but you need to go down to the bakeries. They're pretty awesome bakeries down there. It didn't help my girlish figure at all, but they were good. So what's your thought on state duels, Adam?
I'm excited for them. Like these guys have talked about, the dual atmosphere is just different. The team is engaged the whole time. The crowd is engaged the whole time. You do have more of the team aspect with the scoring and everything. So I think it just brings the girls together more with that. As far as the lineup stuff, I think that'll be one of the benefits of having it a year or another couple years out still, is that if you look at how our growth has been in girls wrestling and then project that out over the course of the next season or so before we get to the duels, you should have a lot more teams that are full. So those top 8 or 16 or however many, in theory, they'll be full or close to full lineups in that time. So I think our duel should be pretty solid.
Yeah. While we're talking about duels, one of the new additions to the rules next year is we can go back to start at the lowest weight and finish at heavyweight for every single duel. Personally, I'm excited about that. I never was 100, well, I guess it was like 103, I think, when I was wrestling, maybe. I don't remember. and I never quite got to heavyweight. I'm getting closer to heavyweight, so, but not anytime I'm gonna have to wrestle a duel. But I love the buildup of the duel. So the rule change that we get to do that. Any thoughts on that? Are you liking that rule change, or do you like the strategy of starting in the middle somewhere and trying to figure things out? And the old guys like myself can't figure out what weight we end with, so I never know if I'm going to win the duel or not. So, anybody got anything on that? Anybody like the rule change?
Yeah, I like starting at 100. Like I used to, I started 103 back when we had the 103 pounder. But yeah, I like to still be strategic and still move some stuff around, throughout the duel and stuff too. But no, I like that. little bit more of a feel, I guess. Just maybe we're old school Troy, but same thing.
Yeah.
I like it when like the Hawkeyes dueling. They always want to start at 125. I like that, especially. I don't know. I'm with you. Start the lightest and work our way up.
Adam, were you ever one of the light guys? I'm guessing you might have wrestled.
Yeah, I was one of the light guys. Never hit 103 because I didn't cert for it, but my freshman year we didn't have a 103, so I got to kick things off at 112 most duels. So and that was always fun. I never minded it, and I don't know if I have a real strong opinion either way on that rule. I think we just try to coach our girls up to be ready to wrestle when it's their weight that's called, and we'll keep doing that no matter what the rule set is on that. So.
I don't know, Matt, do you got any, see, like when I'm doing it, I swear to God, I'm getting way old because I never know what weight we're ending on. And I'm trying to figure out what the score is and how things are going to go. I don't know if that's my age or if I just don't do math well. Um, but what are you thinking about the new, going back to the old rule with the new rule?
I like it. I mean, especially for my team, we're pretty stacked. The first three weights and then the back three. So that those six to start and end it, that's really good for me. And to know that we're going to start to know, or our team feel like we're going to start really well and we're going to end well. That kind of puts less pressure on the middle of my lineup. I like it just from a strategic standpoint. That way I don't have to, because, if you draw right at the duel, and I get it, we look at lineups ahead of time, but if I know right away, that I'm going to do 100 every time, it makes it a little easier for me. I don't have to do so much research and so much looking around or trying to figure out who's wrestling next, So I like it. I'm all for it.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't really seen, I've looked at the rules and that's the only one that stood out on rule changes for next year. Is there anything that you guys saw on new rule changes for next year? And then I want to go back to this last year's rule set. But I didn't see anything else
Really,
that stood out. Yeah. So last year's rule set, I still catch myself saying two for a takedown. Um, and then when I went to freestyle state and it was back to two. So I was like, oh, maybe this is all right. But what do you think about what do you think about 3-point takedown? It definitely changes some things. Or 3-point takedown and then the near fall up to four. What's your thoughts on that? Where I don't even know where we haven't started, but we'll start with Adam because he looks like he wants to say something.
I It did take some adjusting to not yell the two, especially having grown up so close to Carver, and it's just ingrained in you. When you go to a dual meet, you're yelling it out, the whole crowd's yelling it, right? But it also threw me off. We had a couple matches where like I knew we were getting beat, and then all of a sudden the X goes up and we got teched, and I was like, we did? Because we got those 3-point takedowns, 4-point near falls, they add up pretty quick. So yeah. Clips them right along. But I don't know, it was fun too. And I think for our girls, as we're gearing them up for freestyle in college, putting more emphasis on the feet and on turns where they're going to be scoring primarily when they get to college, I think that's a good thing. That kind of helps their focus with the kind of longer range in mind.
Anybody else got anything on the rule set? I really enjoyed the rule sets last year. And then I want to talk about if anybody's got anything more on the 3-point takedown, you like that, you don't, that'd be great to thoughts on that.
I like the extra scoring. I mean, my team's pretty offensive. We're pretty not great on the bottom. So, us only getting 1 point when they take us down, it doesn't add up very fast for us. But I like it as well. And same thing, Adam. We had a couple times where you'd look at the score and I'm like, okay, this should be 4 to whatever. It's actually 7 already. That kind of stuff, both directions. But so I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I think it rewards the aggressor, rewards the person going out and trying to score. I agree. I liked it.
Yeah, and I liked 1 point of contact was a huge benefit. The only thing I saw, and maybe it was just where I was at the beginning of the year, it seemed like they were really calling stalling anytime somebody went out of bounds, and then it seemed like it went away about probably right before Christmas, and then it's coming back for regionals. And it definitely upset me a few times this year, and I didn't care who got called. I just think someone should get called for stalling if we go out of bounds and there's no significant action. What do you think about having the the whole, I mean, it's not one point of contact, I think was great. Any other thoughts on one point of contact? I love it. Jeff, how you,
Yeah, no, I thought it was good too. I really, yeah, I thought the rules from last year really benefit the just the flow of the matches and stuff. So yeah, it was good.
if you know if I think everybody is in agreement, I'm going to throw out one of the questions that I always ask on the podcast. If you had the opportunity to change one rule in wrestling and it changed right away, what rule would you change? And we'll start with Matt. Looks like he's probably has no rule. What would you change about wrestling?
Man, I don't really know, to be honest. I mean, I do wish they would call more stalling. I just think there's a lot of times, that there's not any action at all just to get them going.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I really love the point, the one point of contact. I thought it kept matches flowing, I mean, just not going out of bounds so much and that kind of thing. But I guess being more forceful on the stalling would be one of the rules that I would change.
Okay. How about you, Jeff?
Yeah, I kind of with Matt. I can't really think of much. I guess. Yeah, you like having the stalling stuff. I guess it's that's a personal opinion. That's where it makes it kind of tough. Where you wrestle one match and you're getting dinged, you wrestle the next one and you're not. So, but that's tough for the refs too. They do it their own way. I don't know, man. I haven't really thought about it. I guess a whole heck of a lot. I guess whatever the rules are, we're gonna go with it. I don't really have much for that question. I guess. Sorry, I
It's
wasn't
all right. It's
prepared
all
for
right.
that
That's okay. Adam, what do you think? You got anything?
Not anything I feel too strongly about. I like the 1 point of contact. I think that was really good. The cylinder is always kind of appealing too. Just kind of the keep something hovering over inbounds. So it'd be interesting to see that, line it up with college a little bit. But other than that, nothing major.
Well, I will tell you, overwhelmingly, when I asked the girls, college girls, high school girls, people overwhelmingly, if rule change that they would make would go to a step out point in folk style wrestling.
Yeah,
Any
I'd be all right
thought?
with
Any
that.
be all right with that? Think that'd be
Yeah.
an all right one?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of like that idea too.
Yeah.
Um, I've kind of gotten through the list that I had. I don't know if anybody got any subjects that really wanted to talk about things that should be brought up. If not, I would like to do little coaches groups like this, maybe right before season starts and maybe right before state. If you guys are interested in doing this another time, I think the conversation's good. I'd enjoy it. So if you guys are interested, we'll do that again. Anybody got anything else they'd like to bring up? I usually give people an opportunity to have kind of a final thoughts on the podcast. So I could go through each one of you and give you an opportunity just to have a final thought on whatever. We're going into summertime, maybe something about I don't. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't have to be that profound. But why don't you go ahead and start, Adam? You're always got good smart words for us.
Right on the spot like that. I was
Yeah.
just going to steal ideas from the other guys when they talked. I don't know. I just always like the summer. We open up our room to anybody and everybody that wants to get better. And so for me, it's just a fun time to get to know some of the area girls and the coaches that wander into our room and help us out with that too. So for me, it's just, last time I was on, I just talked about how it's people before projects. And so the summer is a great time for our program to get to do some of that and connect with people and continue building those relationships across the state. And I love being plugged into the AAU stuff, and my girls have gone to some of the USA stuff and getting to meet other girls and coaches and get influenced that way and pick other coaches' brains and get my girls coached by other coaches who are more knowledgeable or teach things a different way that click for my girls. I think it's just a good opportunity for them. And I'm thankful that we have so many knowledgeable coaches willing to give their time and efforts and knowledge, and especially just in our area. It's been a big blessing to us for sure.
Awesome. Matt, you got anything for us tonight?
I really enjoy summer because I open it up to any girls. So, we've got quite an area of girls, Omaha, and, so we've got girls that come over. We do a summer league over in Ralston, so I know some of the coaches, whatever. And it is nice to have your girls get coached by other people, and that's why I try to get all my girls to do Twin Rivers and, the AAU stuff, because they get coached by somebody else. Some of those girls get comfortable and they're like, oh, they didn't do this or they didn't do that. But summertime, just having fun, getting those girls, excited about wrestling, keeping them motivated a little bit, and like I said, big plug to AAU. I've been fortunate enough to send lots of girls. I got, Ellie's going to go down with you to Florida. Yeah. So I'm excited to see her as a freshman, how she competes, but, just having fun and not always doing wrestling stuff. It's about the end product, getting these young women to feel good about themselves and, and friendships and those kind of things. And that's what I look forward to in the summer.
Awesome. How about you, Jeff?
Yeah. I piggyback on there. The summertime's always kind of exciting. We had an open mat tonight, had really good numbers. Like when we were breaking it down, I felt like it was one of our more productive open mats. These girls, they just continue to buy in more and more every year. And that's exciting to see. You see it just continue to grow. And I think what we're to the point now, year 3, and I really noticed this at AAU State this year. The wrestling is pretty amazing right now. It's not all just headlocks and cow catchers and twisters, I guess we call them, whatever. It's not all just half Nelson. This is legitimate, really good wrestling, and it's fun to see that continue to grow. And that's been kind of the coolest part. I coached boys for a lot of years, for 14, 15 years, whatever. I was assistant coach on a really good program. Absolutely loved it. This comes across like, I'll give it a shot, and maybe just kind of be a good way to finish my career. And I'm all in. I'm more stressed, I think, sometimes now than what I was with the boys, because I'm so passionate and I just love it so much. But being able to meet all these new coaches, to be able to sit and talk and do this stuff, and you just see it growing. You see it growing from the girls. You see it growing from the coaches. Troy, you have a huge part of that by doing stuff like this. By getting this stuff out is so cool. You're involved in a lot of stuff. I've gotten to know Adam over the last couple of years, and stuff. Met Matt for the first time tonight. Now we'll be able to talk at tournaments and stuff like that. That's the stuff that's really cool. But then you see the girls and this. So people need to realize this is legitimate, really good wrestling, and the opportunities for them to wrestle in college, if they choose to, there's so many opportunities out there. But what you learn from wrestling will carry you through to everything. How you go to college, how you get a job, how you're a parent, just different things like that. If you do it the right way, and that's we just open it up to how many more thousands of people by the girls starting this. So that's kind of been my cool thing, I guess, of just seeing it grow and stuff.
Yeah. So I'm going to just put this out there. The last 2 weekends, I've gone to 2 different clinics, camps. I have been 2 weekends in a row, have had the girls be taught by someone that has been in Final X. 2 weeks ago in Hinton, they had Felicity Taylor and was there, and then Ella Schmidt, Felicity and Ella did a clinic. And this last weekend in Des Moines, we had Rachel Waters was there doing some of our AAU stuff. So it's amazing how awesome that is to be able to say that in 2 weekends in a row, my girls have had someone from that one match away from the Olympics, are, I guess Felicity's in that case is the world teams, but pretty cool to be in that position and stuff. So no, I appreciate it, guys. Let's do this again when it gets a little closer to season and see how things are going. And I do really appreciate it. I'm gonna go ahead and hit stop record